Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to our event today. We have a fantastic webinar today with a great crowd. We have 13 NIH Institutes presenting today, and I'm very honored to host this event on behalf of the XLerateHealth and Accelerator Network. We will start in a few seconds. There will be questions at the end of the event, but you can put your questions in chat if you have any questions. Please mute yourself until you are specifically asked to speak. Let's start. I'm Eugene Krenzel. I'm a Chief Scientific Officer at XLerateHealth and one of the PIs on the Accelerator Network and NIH-funded network of institutions and organizations helping build and operate. Please mute yourself. Please, everybody mute yourself. Network of organizations and groups that help entrepreneurs across their United States to navigate bringing their innovations from lab to market. Steph, please, next slide. Yes, and the recording will be shared later, and slides. So few words very quickly about what XLerateHealth is, and I will go very quickly through my slides, and everybody will as well. You will get access to the slides and the recording, so don't try to copy a screenshot or anything. You'll have access to all of that, and it's pure gold. Those slide decks, I saw them, they're amazing. So XLerateHealth is a nationally recognized healthcare accelerator, been in business about 12 years now, funded by NIH in the last 6 or so, with multiple awards from NIH, Small Business Administration, and Mott Foundation. And we worked with more than 1,000 startup companies and have a very large number of mentors and subject matter experts helping entrepreneurs. Steph, next slide, please. Next slide. So we have multiple programs that we run for startups. One is XLerateHealth Bootcamp. It's a 12-week healthcare accelerator that is targeting early-stage startups that work in digital health, medical devices, diagnostic, therapeutics, and tech-enabled healthcare services. Next. We also run parallel to that intercession program for about a year and a half. Companies work with and entrepreneurs work with us on customized program based on the stage of their company. It's for more mature entities. Next. We do run a pre-accelerator at an idea or very early stage, so we cover the whole spectrum of stages of company development. Next. We have our program funded by NIH, by NIH GMS, called IRAD. It's Idea Regional Entrepreneurship Development Program. It's a four-month virtual commercialization program. It has a suite of programs and content that we have developed ourselves. And it also includes both group sessions and one-on-one training. Very highly competitive selection process. We hold it once a year. You can read more on the slides. Next, please. And the next slide is, Steph, next, please. Yeah, next slide is for you to take a look at later to get just quotes and references, feedback from their participants. Next, please. We do run SBIR STTR one-on-one coaching program. We are about to start our cohort number 10 and looking forward to do that, continue doing that. It is supported by NIH as well for organizations that are within our Southeast Idea States region. And that's where we're focusing primarily, but we're open to talk with others as well and see how we can help you. And we also leverage our TABA support. Adam will be talking about what TABA is later on. Please, next. That's a little bit of information about TABA, that what we are helping with and what others are working on as well. Again, next, please. Adam will talk about TABA in general. We have a new program called Executive and Roster. It's a new platform that we launch in the fall of 2024, matching startups with advisors and executives. Again, take a look at the slide. Next, please. And if you have any more questions or have interest in any of those programs, contact us through email, website, or this QR code. Thank you. Adam, you're next.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Eugene, for that introduction, and thank you all for having me. I am Adam Sorkin, the Small Business Policy Manager for NIH SEED, or the Small Business Education and Entrepreneurial Development Office, and I'm here to discuss the general small business program of the NIH, as well as the broader Department of Health and Human Services, also known as HHS. And next slide, please. And I'm going to discuss a lot of information in a very small amount of time. So do encourage you to go visit our website at seed.nih.gov, which has a wealth of information. Next slide. So the HHS mission broadly is to enhance the health and well-being of all Americans. And our small business programs support this by helping get great innovations into the hands of the patients, clinicians, caregivers, and researchers who need them across all areas of health. NIH, ARPA-H, CDC, FDA, and ACL all have SBIR programs and participate in much of what I'm going to discuss today. And additionally, both NIH and ARPA-H have STTR programs as well. Next slide. And so, as we're focusing mostly on NIH today, but do keep in mind that many of you will have options amongst our sister agencies as well. And broadly, the NIH mission can be summarized as turning discoveries into health. And you're going to hear a lot more today about the individual missions of many of our component institutes and centers. Next slide. And so our program, I believe we funded roughly $1 billion in small business funding last year. And this funding comes from a set aside that's divided between two programs. Most of you, I'm sure, will be familiar with the Small Business Innovation Research Program, or SBIR program, and the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, or STTR. And I'm going to discuss how these two programs differ in a little while, but for now, keep in mind just that both of these programs are funded as a fixed percentage of NIH's total extramural R&D spending. And as always, these programs are governed by the Small Business Administration's policy directive. You've got a link in the bottom. You can read more specifically about the goals of the program and how they're established with the SBA. Next slide, please. But collectively, our small business programs are one of the largest sources of early stage capital for life science in the US. It is non-dilutive funding. We do not take any ownership of your company. It is essentially free investment. Unlike many other federal agencies you may have experience with, NIH does not tend to be the final customer of the products we support. However, we really do focus on providing both resources and support that our awardees can use to leverage or can leverage to attract partners and investors needed to take their innovation to market. We really do focus on bridging that early stage funding gap to help you de-risk your technology. And next slide, please.
Had no right track.
And thank you. And many companies have done this successfully. If you do go to our website at seed.nih.gov, we do have an excellent success stories page that you can really use to take a look and see how people have used not only our funding, but also leveraged our support programs to succeed and bring their products to market and really positively impact public health across the US and beyond. Next slide. And so one of the hallmarks of our program is its flexibility. We do, like all the other federal agencies, use the traditional phase structure, where phase one focuses on feasibility and demonstrating the commercial potential of your technology. And phase two focuses on continued R&D for your product or service. But we offer a number of options to get from phase one to phase two, depending on the scope of your preliminary work. This includes a traditional phase one application, the fast track combined phase one and phase two application, or even direct to phase two application options if you've already completed phase one equivalent work using other funding sources. We also offer follow-on support as well following phase two to extend R&D timelines for technologies in very heavily regulated spaces, as well as support commercialization activities through the Commercialization Readiness Pilot Program. And you will hear more about this today from my colleagues at the other institutes and centers. We offer a lot of flexibility regarding our budget. NIH, CDC, and ARPA-H have an SBA waiver to exceed the regular SBA guidelines for a select list of topics, which you can find linked in my slides. But do strongly encourage you to discuss this with program officers before applying. And next slide. In general, our eligibility criteria are less flexible. Usually you must be a majority US-owned for-profit small business under 500 employees. Do keep in mind that eligibility is determined at time of award. You are asked to self-certify your eligibility at that time. We are always happy to discuss eligibility criteria with you, but do keep in mind that we will not make an official determination in advance. And next slide, please. The vast majority of our funding goes to investigator-initiated grant applications through our omnibus solicitations that are open through 3 standard receipt dates each year. These are September 5th, January 5th, and April 5th. And I will talk a little bit more about where to find information, but you can always read more about this on our website. And next slide. And you can currently review our previous funding opportunities listed here, or notices of funding opportunities, or NOFOs as we call them. As you may be aware, they've all recently expired, and we are working on reissuing them currently in advance of the September 5th deadline. There are more details linked in the notice. You can see to the top right here. But in general, you should always expect us to have an SBIR and STTR omnibus opportunity, each with and without clinical trial options. These omnibus solicitations accept applications for all topics within NIH, CDC, and FDA's mission spaces, including all of our component institutes and centers. You can also look at our targeted solicitations, as well as a number of specific opportunities and programs. And you can see here that we're highlighting a number of recent programs focused on encouraging inclusion of and partnering with resource-limited institutions on your SBIR and STTR applications, as well as research supporting women's health. And I will note that we also have an annual contract solicitation, which you should expect to come out later in the summer. Next slide, please. And so you've seen we have distinct SBIR and STTR opportunities. And access for these programs and to funding and resources is generally similar. We do manage them more or less alike, except for a few key differences. And the real major difference is the specific partnering requirement. All differences come from that. SBIR allows partnering. The STTR program requires you to partner and partner specifically with a nonprofit research institute. And for each of these programs, you can read about the specific work requirements on the slide. The STTR program also provides flexibility if you'd like to bring in an academic principal investigator. In both cases, please remember that the award is always made to the small business. We do see a lot of confusion with the STTR program that we do have a number of academic institutes have tried to apply that program and include the small business as a sub-awardee. Small business always has to be the primary awardee. Next slide. And I did just want to touch briefly on a couple considerations if any of you are planning clinical trial proposals. Please do keep in mind, not all NOFOs or institutes and centers support clinical trials through the SBIR or STTR program, and our definition of a clinical trial may be broader than you think. So we do encourage you to use the NIH's decision tool linked on this slide. It is very important to determine whether or not your work will be clinical trial or perhaps just the clinical study or human subjects research before applying. So we do encourage you to reach out and discuss this with a program officer early on. Next slide. And I am going to touch quickly on a few key takeaways about the submission process and what happens afterward. If you're familiar with the NIH process for other research project grants, it generally looks the same. There is a two-tier review process, a little bit more about that in a bit, followed by a selection process, and then the process of taking care of the administrative nuts and bolts of getting the award out the door. In general, you should expect this process to take about 6 to 9 months between application and award, but you should expect to get feedback about 3 to 4 months after submission. Understand how well your application fared in review, and that is a great time to discuss next steps with your program officer. Next slide. And some key takeaways about the submission process itself. Very important to register and submit early. We do strongly recommend that you use ERA's assist application to apply. There are a number of other options to submit an application electronically, but the assist system will let you access the NIH system and can help you resolve errors early. Also, there are 4 required registrations, and we do recommend that you complete them as soon as possible. This can take 6 to 8 months to complete this process, and there's nothing we can do to work around registration issues at the deadline. Next slide. Our website also includes some great resources to facilitate submission. You can find complete application instructions, as well as some of our less known resources, including complete sample applications, including summary statements, and often resubmissions, as well as an annotated form set, which can be very helpful for troubleshooting application issues. Also, we provide a lot of great information about engaging with our application assistance programs, and I believe you'll hear a little bit more about some of those programs today. Next slide. But as I've noted more than once, if you take nothing else away, please be sure to reach out to a program officer, and we do recommend doing this at least a month in advance. You're going to hear from a lot of great contacts today, and if you are not sure who to reach out to, my office is always happy to help. Just send a brief overview of your technology and plan submission to seedinfo@nih.gov, and we'll help get you plugged into the right program. Next slide. Once you've submitted the application, it'll be assigned to an institute and center, and then we'll go to a scientific review group or a study section. The scientific review officer at that point will recruit peer reviewers with the appropriate expertise. And for SBIRs and STTRs, this includes both scientists, clinicians, as well as individuals with small business experience to review your application. Usually you'll have at least 3 reviewers assigned to your application, and these reviewers will use specific established review criteria to score your application. Next slide. Which you can see here. So these are the same review criteria that are currently used for research project grants, but do keep in mind that the focus is heavily shifted towards product development and not on hypothesis-driven research. I do encourage you all to review Section 5 of the NOFO that you are applying to. This will provide the guidance that reviewers are asked to consider when they're evaluating your application. So we do encourage you to review those and make sure you're really tailoring your application to address those specific questions listed there. And next slide. And again, do be prepared to have to resubmit your application. We do see very many applicants receive that first rejection and walk away from the program. But the program is very competitive, and it's really important to note that we definitely see success rates go up with resubmissions. It's really important to stick with it. So take that feedback, discuss it with your program officer, and figure out how to come back with a stronger application. So next slide. Once your application is reviewed, it will go to an advisory council, which recommends applications for funding. And this is generally in bulk based on a proposed funding plan. The institute directors do confer with the program officers to make final selections for funding. Then your application will be reviewed for eligibility and to make sure it meets all of the NIH and SBIR policy requirements to make awards. It is important to note that we don't like to ding people too badly for administrative issues, and we will work with you to fix problems wherever we can. So that's generally what the process looks like. And I do just want to quickly touch on a couple other resources that Eugene alluded to. First, next slide. We do have excellent access to technical and business assistance or TABA programs. Our sort of recommended sequence is featured here, but you do have a number of options you can review at our website, and we're always happy to discuss these with you. Next slide. We do have provide access to a lot of excellent innovator support resources, including access to investment and partnering opportunities, as well as expert consulting for regulatory reimbursement, business development, and IP issues. Next slide. As well as access to a number of really great entrepreneurial training and support programs for our awardees, and in a few cases prior to application. You can read more about these on our website. Very happy to discuss these as well. And next slide. Here's how you can reach out to us. We welcome email, social media, LinkedIn, what have you. So that covers my presentation for today. Thanks so much for having me, and I will look forward to addressing your questions downstream.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adam. Suraj, you are next.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Suraj Regni. Can you guys all hear me?
We do.
Perfect. And I'm a program director with the NCI SBIR Development Center. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for this opportunity. I only have 6 minutes, so I'll try to be fast and efficient. Next slide, please. So the NCI SBIR Development Center is a dedicated office. It's dedicated to supporting small businesses. We manage the portfolio of SBIR, STTR funded companies, and we also help with the SBIR journey all the way from providing guidance with application and resubmission guidance to providing training and mentoring support for our funded companies. We will also help you navigate this myriad of alphabet soup that you will come across during the application process. So one thing that I'd really like to point out today is reach out to us. Think of us as a resource in your journey towards commercialization and your guide too. We understand that the SBIR process and the paperwork can be quite daunting, especially for first-time applicants. And my colleagues and I are here to help. And we don't bite, at least the folks presenting today, I can personally vouch. So next slide. So the NCI's total SBIR STTR budget is around $200 million. We have a range of programs organized in different phases, not to be confused with phases of clinical trial. My colleague Adam talked about phase 1 and phase 2 as well as fast track. I'd like to highlight NCI's budget here in the phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 for the NCI, it's $400,000 total cost. For phase 2, that's $2.25 million for 2 years. We also have programs that's sort of a phase 0 called a concept award. Goal here is to fund high risk, high reward projects in rare and pediatric cancer without any preliminary data, with a focus towards innovation. Budget for that is $300,000. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And beyond phase 2, we also have a phase 2B bridge award to help navigate that valley of debt that is so common these days, with a budget around $4.5 million for IND or IDE enabling studies. And for this award, we require matching third-party investors. Next slide. So this is our portfolio of around 475 different active projects at any time, 81% grants, 19% contracts. And if you look at the spread, you will see biologics, small molecules, digital health, theranostics, basically everything and anything to do with cancer. So we're quite broad in terms of what we like to fund. We're really interested in funding different technologies in cancer. Next slide. So this is a quick look at our funding opportunities and deadline. Omnibus solicitation, obviously, is January 5th, April 5th, and September 5th. We also have a couple of notices of special interest looking at cancer prevention, diagnosis, and treatment in low resource settings. And then there are a couple of RFAs, once-a-year opportunities that I'd like to talk about later. The Small Business Transition Grant, the Bridge Award, and the Concept Award. Next slide. So just to highlight, you can really go to market with NCI SBIR and SBIR program overall in more than one way. You can form your own company, apply for an SBIR. You could partner with an existing business if you're at an academic setting. Or if you're at an academic setting, you can also license your technology to a company. So there are more than one ways to SBIR, STTR funding. Just wanted to highlight that. Next slide. So this funding opportunity that I'd like to highlight, and I'm really excited about, is a Small Business Transition Grant. The goal here is to fund early career academic entrepreneurs, postdocs, graduating PhD students to advance their technologies from academic bench to the clinic. This is a first of its kind funding opportunity at NIH. For a $2.4 million fast track award for folks within 10 years of their terminal degree. And it's really unique in that the phase 1 is an STTR, wherein you are required to collaborate with an academic institution, and a phase 2 is an SBIR. And starting this year, we'll also allow a phase 1 STTR only option. Mentoring is a key component of the award, and the deadline for this award is August 21st, 2024. Next slide, please. And so basically, not to beat around the bush, phase 1 is an STTR where a PI, traditionally a postdoc, early career scientist, is required to have 2 mentors, a technical mentor who's able to provide guidance on the research aspects of things, and the business mentor who's able to provide guidance on business development needs. The PI will prep the technology to move to small business. We will also provide entrepreneurial training in the form of the I-Corps program. The transition happens when the PI is able to move the technology from the academic institution to the small business. The next receipt date is August 21, 2024. So like I said before, a phase 1 STTR only option is allowed along with a fast track. Next slide. The other program that I talked about is a concept award that I alluded to earlier, sort of a phase 0 program. Next slide, please. The goal here is to support high-risk, high-reward technologies, de-risk disruptive innovation. This is funded through a contract mechanism. One of the key features that I want to highlight is that you are required to submit a white paper to get input from the program. It's a really short application. Preliminary data is not required. There's a special review criteria on innovation, $300,000 total cost, 1-year award. And the goal here is to fund high-risk, high-reward innovations in rare and pediatric cancer. Next slide. The Bridge Award, as I talked about earlier, this is one of our most late-stage award. Matching funds are required. Eligibility is any phase 2 awardees from any federal agency. So if you have an SBIR award from any of the federal agency and your research work pertains to cancer and you're thinking about late-stage studies to get FDA approval, this might be a great opportunity for you. We require 1-to-1 match, we've had a lot of success through these programs. We've awarded around 121 million through fiscal year 2021, and companies have been able to secure $4 from third party for every $1 from NCIR. So this has been a great program, and definitely think about this if you're working in cancer. Next slide. So just wanted to share some economic impact study that was conducted independently. We found out that for every dollar that was spent on SBIR, we've had a lot of new jobs created, and you can check out some of this data later. Next slide. So we're looking for a really innovative solution. We're looking to leverage expertise of company founder. We're looking for solutions that have significant commercial need, and we're looking to translate federally funded research into the clinic. Next slide. And I cannot stress this enough. Reach out to us. If you have any questions, definitely shoot us an email, talk to us, reach out to us before applying, reach out to us before resubmitting, and think of us as your guide. Next slide. And we have a great website that has a lot of resource for commercialization. You'll also be able to know about a lot of events. We're on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Next slide. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Suraj. Mina, you are next.
Thank you, Eugene. I want to start off by thanking Eugene and Stephanie Davis for giving me this opportunity. Hi, everyone. I am the Small Business Program Officer at the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences, NCATS for short. Let's go to the next slide. NCATS was established in 2011, and we are relatively one of the newer institutes at the NIH. NCATS is also different from our sister ICs, and what I mean by that is we are not focused towards a particular disease or an organ. NCATS typically supports and funds projects, mostly platform technologies, that have the potential to ultimately have clinical implication across a wide number of human diseases and conditions. Our mission is to accelerate the translational science process, and translational science, as we define it here, is the conversion of a basic science discovery that happens in a lab setting into health solutions. Next slide, please. So again, NCATS mission. Thank you, Steph. NCATS mission is to support and fund tools and technologies that not only identifies, but also helps mitigate bottlenecks involved in taking the putative therapeutics and devices to the market. So ultimately, more treatment options can be made available to all patients more rapidly. Next slide. So towards this mission, NCATS Small Business Program funds projects that fall within these three main buckets listed on the slide, right? So it's preclinical drug discovery and development, biomedical, clinical, and health research informatics, clinical dissemination and implementation research. So each main topic has several subtopics, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to go over them. I encourage you to please read through our fact sheet to learn more. A QR code to our fact sheet is provided in one of the following slides. Next slide. So there are a few notices of funding opportunities that NCATS is leading that I would like to bring to your attention. So one such NOFO is the industrialization and translation of extracellular vesicles for use in regenerative medicine. The main objective for this funding opportunity is to support platform technologies associated with the production, manufacturing, and use of EVs in, again, regenerative medicine. The due date to apply to this NOFO is coming up. It's actually June 6th in a couple of, in a few weeks. For this NOFO and others that I will touch upon in my next slides, I would encourage you to please read through the funding announcement carefully. And if you have any questions, reach out to the scientific point of contact listed in the respective funding announcements. Next slide, please. So the next NOFO that I want to talk about is the one on health inequities. And this was published earlier this year. The purpose of this NOFO is to support applications from small businesses to pursue the development of improved clinical diagnostics or the development of alternative clinical diagnostics that address health disparities created by currently used laboratory assays or point-of-care devices. These laboratory assays and point-of-care devices currently used that fail to incorporate the diverse patient groups, right? So this NOFO is to, again, address that bottleneck and develop more improved diagnostics that takes into account the diverse population. Next slide, please. The last NCATS-led funding announcement that I want to mention is the miniaturization and automation of tissue chip systems. Applications that will be considered responsive to this NOFO would be those that propose research and development of tools and turnkey technologies for higher throughput automated measures to reduce manual handling. So it has one due date per year. And if this topic is something that you are working on, you will have several months to put together your application for the next due date, which is in February of 2025. Next slide. So here I have listed several ways on how you can stay in touch with NCATS. Please reach out to me by email if you have any questions. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I really hope to connect with several of you in the near future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eugene and Stephanie, for organizing this. My name is Ben Cubbert. I'm a scientific program analyst at NHGRI, or the National Human Genome Research Institute. And today I want to talk to you all about the amazing opportunities and resources that NHGRI has to offer small businesses or those looking to commercialize their research. Next slide, please. So NHGRI's mission, sorry about that. To get started, I want to talk a bit about what NHGRI is, what our goals are, and NHGRI strives to improve the health of all humans through advances in genomics research. And our mission is to accelerate scientific and medical breakthroughs that improve human health. And we do this by driving cutting-edge research, developing new technologies, and studying the impact of genomics on society. And if you want to learn more about our strategic vision, please visit our website, genome.gov. Next slide, please. Now that I've painted the big picture of NHGRI, I want to highlight the key research areas supported by the Institute. As you can see, these 8 categories are incredibly diverse and range from genomic tech dev, clinical genomics and sequencing, genomic medicine, all the way to the ethical, legal, and social implications of genomics. With so many research areas funded by NHGRI, how can you be sure that your science aligns with what we're looking for? Next slide, please. Well, as an example of the kind of science that we fund, I want to highlight one of our most impactful programs for both small business and technology development grantees at NHGRI. This program is called our Genome Technology Program, or the GTP. Now, the GTP supports NHGRI's technology development research, which includes genomic tech, synthetic nucleic acid synthesis, sequencing tech, and single molecule protein sequencing. Now, one of the really cool things about this program is that 50% of our small business grantees have research that is classified as technology development. Now, the grantees in the program not only receive valuable NHGRI resources, but they also collaborate with one another within this program. There are coordination opportunities within the GTP that accelerate technology innovation and interactions between groups within the GTP. We hold working group meetings roughly 2 times a month for our grantees to showcase their research and gain valuable feedback from researchers and PIs in similar scientific areas. We also hold an annual meeting to further drive collaboration and showcase all of the wonderful science that NHGRI funds. If you want to learn more about this program, please scan the QR code attached on the slide. Next slide, please. So now that you've seen an example of what NHGRI funds, I want to dive a bit deeper and discuss what is and isn't a good fit for our institute. So if your science involves genomic research or development that can be generalizable, then it would be a good fit for NHGRI. But what does that mean? Well, the kind of science we're looking for not only focuses on genomics and genetics, but it's also not focused on a specific set of genes, diseases, or organs. So if there is focus on a limited set, it should be used as an exemplar that could be generalized beyond the set chosen for research. So what does that mean? Well, your science or research can focus on a specific disease or organ system, but only if generalizability to multiple diseases can be explained. Those that are not generalizable should be directed to the appropriate NIH Institute or center. Now, I want to be very clear and make an important distinction that NIH Institutes fund different topics. So it's really important that you ensure your research matches the relevant IC. So if you have any questions about your science and if it would be a good fit for NHGRI, please scan the QR code on the slide to reach out to one of our small business program officers. Next slide, please. Now, our small business program at NHGRI has different targeted solicitations and funding opportunities, and including those that we're also signed on to from other institutes. If you're interested in learning more about these funding opportunities, please scan the QR code to visit our small business webpage. Next slide, please. So when talking about what NHGRI funds, it might also be helpful to go over our notices of special interest, or NOCIs. Now, these are terms you might see a lot, but they are not funding opportunities. What they do is describe specific areas of interest for NHGRI, and then they direct you to the appropriate funding opportunity. You can find the examples of these small business NOCIs listed on our webpage as well. Next slide, please. And I'll end today by showcasing some examples of successful companies and projects that have been supported by NHGRI that have had a huge impact on the field of genomics. Obviously, our institute wouldn't be here today without the completion of the Human Genome Project, but other companies and projects listed here have done wonders for the field, and we're really excited about what the future holds for genomics. Next slide, please. If you have any questions or want to know if your research may be a good fit for NHGRI, please shoot our small business team an email. We'd love to talk with you. And I'd also like to thank my colleagues and program directors for the small business program at NHGRI. That would be Renee Ryder and Ian Nova, who have been incredibly resourceful and helpful. Thank you all for your time today, and I will pass it on to Stephanie.
Steph, you're next.
That took me a minute to take myself off mute. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephanie Davis. I am the Small Business Program Officer for the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. So I'm briefly going to be going over resources and funding opportunities that you can use to help further develop your early stage technologies focused on treating heart, lung, blood, and sleep disorders. So the small business program at the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, as its name would suggest, it focuses on developing and funding the further testing of innovative and commercially viable products to diagnose, treat, research, and prevent heart, lung, blood, and sleep-related diseases. We fund technologies for many diseases that fall under this umbrella, with one minor caveat. If you're developing anything for lung or blood cancer, please see Dr. Regmi, because that is within the National Cancer Institute's mission space. But as you can see by this pie chart, we fund several different types of technologies, and the percentage of technologies that we fund is really going to depend upon what types of applications that we get through the investigator-initiated omnibus NOFOs. But we are very device heavy. About 33% of our technologies are therapeutics, 36% are supportive devices, 5% research tools, 7% monitoring or diagnostic devices, 5% in vitro diagnostics, 5% imaging devices, and 9% digital health and software applications. Right now, our fund is about $136 million, and we fund over 300 active projects. So here are just some examples of diseases in the NHLBI mission space. Once again, this is not limited to the only devices that we fund, but just some examples of diseases that we are interested in. So here is an overview slide showing the resources that are offered by my office, which is the NHLBI Commercialization and Innovation Office. So we provide services to applicants through outreach events, pre-application proposal guidance. So we recommend people reach out at least 1 month before they submit to determine whether or not their program is appropriate for our institute. We participate in several pre-application assistance programs, including the AAP, which Adam mentioned, as well as a program called ITEP, which my colleague Dr. English is going to talk about on behalf of NIAID. We provide funding through phase 1, phase 2. We do also offer phase 2B awards for companies that have already gotten phase 2 funding and need to further develop their technology, as well as commercialization readiness pilot program awards. And in addition to providing funding, we also provide non-monetary support through our office. So this can include product development guidance, supplemental support, as well as access to subject matter experts and entrepreneurs in residence who can help prepare our companies for investor showcase events and help them connect with investors and strategic partners. So here's just an overview of the type of programs that we participate in at our office. So these are divided into our monetary support programs, which are in gray, and our non-monetary support, which are in pink. And so these programs are going to cover all the way from our early stage applicants, which are doing basic and early translational research, all the way up to when the products are going to be sold and distributed to patients and providers, which is where they can make a positive scientific and public health impact. So here are some of the notices of funding opportunity we participate in. Although most of our applications come in through those omnibus notices of funding opportunities, we do have some special set aside funds for other funding opportunities. So we provide commercialization readiness pilot program awards. We also participate in a funding opportunity on behalf of the HEAL program, helping end addiction long-term. So if you're developing anything for pain management in heart, lung, blood, or sleep disorders, I would strongly recommend checking out these funding opportunities. We also participate in the Innovations for Healthy Living RFA, which my colleague, Commander Banyas, is going to be going over, but anything developed that address health disparities in heart, lung, blood, and sleep disorders, I would recommend going through this initiative. And then the Small Business Grant Transition Grant for New Entrepreneurs, which provides, it's kind of like an omnibus for early stage or brand new biomedical entrepreneurs. I'd strongly recommend looking into these programs. In addition, we also provide notices of special interest. These are all linked to the omnibus NOFOs, but if you have a project that falls under any one of these, what you'll want to do is put that NOC routing number in box 4B of your application. These aren't funding opportunities per se, but they're a way that you can flag your application as being of high scientific priority to our institute. So you have absolutely nothing to lose by going through one of these NOCs, and we'd be happy to answer any questions if you have anything else. And we also offer a translational research program called the Catalyze program. And Catalyze these are not small business grants, but these are RFAs that support early stage device, therapeutic and research tool and transformative platform development. And these are open for both small companies and academic investigators. So you don't have to have a company in order to apply for Catalyze. So the next application deadline for Catalyze is going to be July 24th. But if you have any questions about these, please feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you with my colleague who runs the program. And so if you'd like to find out more about the Innovation and Commercialization Office and stay up to date on all of our latest funding opportunities and programs, I'd strongly recommend visiting our website or signing up for our monthly newsletter. Also, follow us on X at NHLBI_SBIR, and our main inbox is NHLBISBIR@mail.nih.gov. And I'm going to be turning it over to my colleague, Dr. Hijau English.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Hijau English. I'm a Small Business Development Specialist with the NIAID Small Business Program. I will be providing a brief overview of the NIAID SBIR STTR program. Next slide, please. So of all the NIH institutes and centers, NIAID has the second largest budget for SBIR STTR awards, and that is for fiscal year 2023. NIAID's budget is about $195.2 million. Next slide, please. So for NIAID's mission areas, NIAID conducts and supports basic and applied research to better understand, treat, and ultimately prevent infectious, immunologic, and allergic diseases. NIAID also has a unique mandate that requires the Institute to respond to emerging public health threats, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And we have 3 scientific extramural divisions that are in charge of all the extramural research and awards, which includes the SBIR STTR awards. These divisions are Division of AIDS, Division of Allergy, Immunology, and Transplantation, and Division of Microbiology and Infectious Diseases. Next slide, please. Here's some bullet points for some of the NIH-specific SBIR STTR policies. For waiver topics, we do allow a waiver budget if you fit seeing one of NIAID's waiver topics. We would allow for Phase 1 awards up to $300,000 per year for up to 2 years. For Phase 2 awards, up to $1 million per year for up to 3 years. And these topics are generally interpreted broadly by the NIAID program officers. They won't impact the funding decisions. We do also allow Phase 2B applications. Matching funds are not required, and however, it's for SBIR application type only. NIAID does not participate in the omnibus clinical trials required solicitation. We only accept SBIR clinical trial application through the U44 mechanism. You can learn more about this mechanism at PAR 24099. NIAID also participates in the CRP program if you wish to pursue this application as a continuation for your Phase 2 or Phase 2B award. For funding decisions, NIAID funds applications primarily based on scientific merit, which is your priority score. All applications except for CRP U44 within published guidelines are funded. The last bullet point, we listed one of our most requested resources is a sample of SBIR STTR applications from past successful applicants. And you can use it as a reference to build your own application. Next slide, please. We also have 2 applicant support programs that can help you to prepare your application and also help you to commercialize your technology. The first program is the NIAID Applicant Assistance Program, the NIAID AAP. It's quite different in terms of eligibility criteria with the NIH AAP, that it does support both Phase 1 and Phase 2, Phase 2B, fast track and direct to Phase 2 applications. We do have an emphasis on helping our applicants to develop the commercialization plan, which can be very challenging for newer entrepreneurs. And this program consists of one-on-one customized consultant assistance and also online webinars and toolkits you can use by yourself. We have 3 cycles each year that corresponds with 3 of the SBIR STTR application deadlines. First, 35 eligible applicants are enrolled in the program if you're eligible to participate. Next slide, please. The second program that we recently launched in this year in February is a no-cost entrepreneurial training that jointly hosted by NIAID and NIH SBIR. It's called the Innovator to Entrepreneur Program, ITAP. This program is more geared toward assisting participants making the transition from innovator to entrepreneur. That provides no-cost training in entrepreneurship, including business plan development, IP protection strategy, market research, customer discovery, and other assistance you might need in order to move your technology down the commercialization path. So it does have 2 cohorts. Each cohort is up to 22 participants for February and June. So for this program, we hope to equip our applicants with knowledge to launch your company and also apply for the SBIR STTR grants successfully. Next slide, please. So this is our team here at NIAID with 5 of us. Feel free to send any inquiries you might have to the general inquiry email, and we highly encourage that you reach out to program officers, and we're happy to help you connect with the appropriate people to provide feedback on your project before submitting your application. And please also subscribe to our listserv. We do send out all the assistance program announcements and important information through the listserv to our community. Next slide, please. I think that's all. Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next one, NIA.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Vicky Catani, and I'm a program officer in the Office of Strategic Extramural Programs at NIA, which is the office that oversees funding and support for small business research, training, and career development at NIA. Next slide. So at OSEP, we strategically fund innovations for basically aging research, which is pretty broad. But we do have a special focus on Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's disease-related dementias, and age-related change in brain function as a whole. We obviously also fund age-related diseases and conditions, research tools, digital health, and age tech. Anything that enables optimal care and aging in the place of choice for older adults. The pie chart over there gives you an overview of our active research portfolio. About 30% of active portfolio are therapeutics, 20% digital health and mobile health, around 20% of sensors and monitoring devices, 10% devices, and then the rest is research tools, diagnostics, and imaging devices. And you can read in this slide the other additional areas of interest. Next slide. We obviously have the same funding programs as the other agencies. We participate in the omnibus, both in the clinical trials as well. Typically, our phase ones are up to 1 year and up to $400,000. Our targeted Alzheimer's disease and related dementia, so no falls though, are up to 2 years and $500,000 for phase 1. And for phase 2, up to 2 years and 2.2 million for the omnibus, and up to 3 years and 2.5 million for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. We also offer fast tracks, direct to phase 2s, the commercialization readiness pilot that Adam talked about at the beginning, and we also participate in phase 2Bs. Next slide. So if you scan the QR code that you see on the right side of this page, it'll take you to a very comprehensive slide deck. These are more than 50 slides that describes our funding opportunities. Some of them I didn't talk about today, but we also participate in the some of the ones that other people talked about today. There's a lot of information about budget guidance, about the review cycle. Importantly, there's a lot of information about other NIA resources that are beyond funding, and then a lot of tips for a successful application, including the information that you see in this slide about how to draft your specific aims page. And this is important because, as Saroj mentioned for NCI, we also want you to reach out to us. We want to have discussions about your specific aims page, to want to make sure that your proposed project aligns with our interests. So once you have a specific aims page and hopefully you follow the instructions in this slide, you can reach out to us so we can give you feedback about your specific aims. Next slide. As I said, there are a lot of resources for everyone. We have archive presentations. We also have sample applications like Hijao just mentioned. People really want to see examples of successful applications. They are available on our webpage. We also participate in the applicant assistance program, not on the NIAID one, on the other one. And the deadline for being considered for this program for the September cycle is next week, I think on May 21st. So if you follow the hyperlink, you'll find information about that. And we have also resources for phase 1 awardees that you can take a look at. Next slide. Next slide. However, there are people that are maybe not going to be ready to apply for a phase 1. Maybe you don't have the data, you need a little bit more. So you consider, looking into these opportunities. NIA funds this collaboration between these 3 institutions, Johns Hopkins, UMass, and UPenn. They give these 200,000 pilot awards for companies that use artificial intelligence approaches and technology to improve care and health outcomes for older adults with Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers. It's a very simple application process. It's once a year though, and the application just closed, but it'll open again next year. Next slide. And we also organized our own startup challenge and accelerator. This is great, again, for first-time entrepreneurs. People that we accept go through these entrepreneurial education sessions, a boot camp that's in person. We take them to a health conference. We assign them mentors and advisors. And the winners get cash prizes of up to $60,000. Next slide. So please reach out. This is how you can contact us. You can follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or send an email to the NIH Small Business, and you will get to me or to Rajesh, the other program officer. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Vicky. It was fantastic. Kari, you're next.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Carrie Ashmont. I am the translational team lead at the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering, or NIBIB. I oversee our small business program as well as other translational activities at the Institute. Next slide, please. I'd like to start with just a little overview of the NIBIB mission. So we are a little bit different than many institutes and centers at the NIH in that we are disease agnostic. So we are not focused on a particular disease and disorder. Instead, as our name suggests, we are focused on engineering, technology, and development. So when we think about our mission, we're really asking three questions. Are you developing a tool or technology? Is it broadly applicable? And is it ultimately geared towards improving human health? And if the answer is yes to all of these questions, then chances are you fit within our mission. Now, for the small business program, we certainly recognize that you need to have identified a particular disease or disorder in order to put together things like a commercialization and regulatory plan. So when we think about the broadly applicable component, we're really thinking about, could the tool or technology you're working on potentially be applied to other diseases or disorders beyond where you are working right now without significant re-engineering? Now, as you can see on this slide, we cover a very broad range of tools and technologies, and it's often confusing where our mission ends and another mission begins. So I do really encourage people, as many others have today, to reach out with a draft specific aims page ahead of time to have a discussion about mission fit and address any any questions you might have about the application process. Next slide, please. This is just a very brief overview of what our small business portfolio typically looks like. This is from the end of last year. And as you can see, while we are one of the smaller institutes at the NIH, we do really try our best to cover as many of the tools and technologies in our mission space as possible. A few particular notes about the small business program at NIBIB that are worth noting is that we do not support phase 2B applications, and we do only support early stage feasibility type clinical trials. If you're starting to get into the space of looking at efficacy, chances are you're probably a better fit for one of the other institutes or centers at the NIH. Next slide, please. As I mentioned at the beginning, I oversee the small business program as well as other translational activities. And one that we are particularly proud of at the NIBIB is the Concept to Clinic Commercializing Innovation, or C3I program. The C3I program was started in 2014 and is based on the Coulter commercialization process. This is an entrepreneurship training and mentorship program that is really geared towards providing specialized business frameworks to innovators so that they can successfully and efficiently translate their technologies from the laboratory to the clinic. As of right now, we are partnering with 9 other institutes and centers, as well as the NIH Brain Initiative, to offer this program to teams. We are also partnering with our contractor Lab to Market to offer the program on a yearly basis. Next slide, please. Some specifics about the program. So it has evolved over time since it was started in 2014, and it now has 3 different components to it. The first component is EC3I, or the educational component. This is heavily focused on academic innovators, so people with a research project grant, R01 type grant. This program is run over the course of the summertime when hopefully teaching workloads are a little bit lower, and is all online. The primary focus of the EC3I course is to establish a market need and understand what that need is. The next component of the program, and really the heart of the program, is the C3I component. This is a more intense course. It runs for 24 weeks and really takes those next steps in the commercialization process or the business framework understanding. So you work on things such as value propositions and business rationales, understanding the regulatory and reimbursement pathway, and hopefully identifying the next killer experiment that you need to do in order to push your technology towards commercialization. At the end of C3I, you will put together a sort of practice pitch presentation to ideally line you up to start thinking about talking to outside investors if that's a logical next step for your technology. The final component is C3ISL, and this is the only one that NIBIB is the sole participant in. So the C3ISL program is actually a supplement program for NIBIB awardees who have an R01 type research project grant and have been through the C3I program and identified a critical next step that they need to take in their technology development. The ESL program will offer up to a year of support to complete those activities. Across all of these different components, teams are paired up with experienced business advisors and project managers who are able to offer tailored support and mentorship based on the needs of the team and the technology. Next slide, please. This is just a little bit of some feedback that we have received over the years from some teams who have been through the program, just to highlight that, you know, it really has been a successful program. I think to date, we are up over 200 teams that we have helped to work their way through the different programs in C3I. And like I said in the beginning, it is one that we at NIBIB are particularly proud of. Next slide, please. So I will leave it at that. And once again, a reminder that reaching out ahead of time really is helpful for not only you, but us to help understand what you're hoping to work on and help address any questions that you might have. So please do reach out. We're happy to do what we can to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And C3I is a fantastic program. I've had several people that participated raving about it. So
amazing.
Kudos, yeah, kudos to you for running it. So Ian, you're next.
My name is Tony Ajafe. I'm a program officer at the National Center.
It's very hard to hear you, Ian. Can you be a little bit closer to the microphone?
Sure. Let's see if I can turn up. Right? How is it? Yeah, that should be
much better.
All right, wonderful. So everyone, my name is Tony Ajafe. I'm a program officer at the National Center for Medical Rehabilitation Research, which is under NICHD, the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. The point of contact, and so I coordinate the small business program for NICHD. Elizabeth Wilson supports in the scientific program manager role. Next slide, please. No disclosures. Next slide, please. And quickly, just to give you a sense of what the structure of NICHD looks like, we have first, I should talk about our mission, which is to lead research and training to understand human development, improve reproductive health, enhance lives of children and adolescents, and optimize abilities for all. Structurally, there's an office of the director. We have a division of intramural research where we have our researchers doing research at NIH. And then we have a division of extramural research, which is where my role is located. We have a National Center for Medical Rehabilitation Research. We coordinate disabilities research at NIH. And then we have a division of extramural activity, which typically deals with policies and internal guidelines. Next slide, please. I always find it useful to have this slide. I won't dwell on it, but you may have heard references today to small ICs and large ICs or medium-sized ICs. That's really a function of budget. And so this slide gives you a sense of what it means to be a smaller IC versus a medium-sized versus a large IC. Next slide, please. So at NICHD, there are 12 branches. It's a really diverse portfolio. And you can see it ranges from child development and behavior to maternal and pediatric infectious disease to pregnancy and perinatology to medical rehabilitation and physical disabilities. So hopefully folks in the audience find a home or one of our branches that aligns with the work you're doing. But I'm always happy to chat offline if you have any questions. Next slide, please. Just to further distill and maybe to give you a better sense for what some themes and goals and objectives may be or look like. Again, relevant work can range from understanding molecular cellular structure-based development to setting the foundation for healthy pregnancies, prior to pregnancies, fertility and infertility. It may be unrelated to pregnancy at all. So it could be developing safe and effective therapeutics and devices for pregnant and lactating people, children, and people with disabilities. It can include assistive technology. So I want to recommend that if you have some time, read through an NICHD strategic plan, because it'll give you a thorough sense for what the breadth of an NICHD research portfolio and mission space looks like. Next slide, please. And again, the relevant products and services can be devices. There may be therapeutics, drugs. They could be education and development, curriculum for children. They could be software as medical device. So again, it's a wide range of products and services that would be applicable to our research portfolios. Next slide, please. I urge you to take a look at our success stories. Again, you'll see the range from obstetrician and gynecologists related tools to male fertility, to treatment of endometriosis, pain relief in pediatrics, newborn screening, head impact telemetry. Some in the audience may recognize the name Synbex. Utah bionic leg, which is a prosthesis. And I want to highlight this one because I think often small businesses don't realize they can also apply to other types of funding mechanisms. So the Utah bionic leg was actually developed through an R01, which is a different research project grant mechanism at NIH. So in terms of diversifying your options, you can pursue parallel lines of funding, right? So you're not restricted to SBIR STTR mechanisms alone. Happy to discuss those options offline. Next slide, please. As everyone has said, please reach out, send your specific aims. Even if you don't have aims or know how to draft one, we have many examples that we can share and help you draft something rough, right? And we can schedule a call and start to talk about fit and relevance. And we're always happy to chat with you and discuss your project. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ian. That was great. Jess, you're next.
Hi, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. I am Jess Lucas. I am a program officer at the National Institute on Drug Abuse. And as a recovering healthcare provider, hopefully some of the funding opportunities that I'm going to go through will resonate with the audience. So next slide. Oh, sorry, I may have to click it a couple times. Thank you. So at the National Institute on Drug Abuse, or NIDA, our mission is to advance science on the causes and consequences of drug use and addiction, and to apply that knowledge to improve individual and public health. Next slide. I sit in our SBIR and STTR programs, sit within the Office of Translational Initiatives and Program Innovations, called OTIPI. We also have a very dedicated office that does exclusively small business and entrepreneurship programs. We provide leadership for the vigorous pursuit of excellence in research. We use innovative programs to speed the application of research discoveries in substance use. And then we also support innovative projects in the areas of drug development, medical device, consumer products, wellness, research tools. So we do offer funding and opportunities for a wide breadth of different scientific endeavors. Next slide. So how do we fulfill our mission? We offer a wide breadth of services within our office. We have our small business and so the SBIR and STTR funding mechanisms. We also run educational events and lecture series. We have a new product development for SUD lecture series that we run monthly. We also participate in the Blueprint network, the MedTech and the Neurodiagnostics, the two programs. We also participate in Growing Great Ideas, which is our entrepreneurship training program that we have for researchers and entrepreneurs, burgeoning entrepreneurs in the SUD space. We also run our own prize competitions and challenges. We also have a phase 3 project with us for wastewater detection of drugs in wastewater. We also have some strategic alliances and partnerships. Next slide. So one thing we've realized is that there isn't a lot of funding to go around necessarily for substance use disorders and research in that area. So we really have taken it upon ourselves that we feel like growing this community of entrepreneurs is something that our office really takes seriously. We develop our own pipeline of entrepreneurs. So next slide. One way that we do that is we offer our prize competitions. Our signature challenge, which is actually our next cohort is running currently, is our Start an SUD Startup Challenge. Since its inception, we've mentored 74 teams. We currently have 15 in this year's cohort. The next application, which is, it has a 5-minute video and a 4-page proposal. So lower thresholds than a grant application, but big rewards. You get 6 months of mentoring as well as a cut of $100,000 of prize money. We've had some really great success with this. We have had 9 new companies that have come out of this. They have gotten SBIR and STTR funding, 2.2 million or 22.2 million, excuse me, and then almost 50 million in VC funding. So next slide. We also offer our entrepreneurship schools. It's a first of its kind cooperative agreement at NIH, which we launched in 2022. Our first cohorts at our 3 schools, Babson College's SUD Sprint, Johns Hopkins I4SUD, and MIT's SUD Ventures. Actually concluded pretty recently. We've had now 92 burgeoning SUD entrepreneurs who've been trained across the 3 programs. And a little plug, Babson has had their next application cycle concluded, but they are actually recruiting for their new entrepreneurship leader network in SUDs. The Johns Hopkins current application cycle for I4SUD is currently open and will close on June 30th. And I'm not sure if it's just my screen or if the slide was cut off, but MIT's application cycle actually just opened on Monday. So they are also now accepting for their next cohort. Next slide. Also wanted to mention, we also at NIDA we do participate in the Omnis solicitation, but we also have our own targeted SBIR and STTR funding opportunities. To provide a couple highlights on the street right now, we have a RFA for using artificial intelligence in discovering and developing drugs for SUDs. We also just closed, actually, we have met our first deadline for addressing social needs on substance use disorders RFA, but that will also, our second round of that will be next March. We also have our developing regulated therapeutic and diagnostic solutions for opioid use disorder and stimulant use disorder. And as I mentioned, we also participate in Blueprint MedTech and Blueprint Neurotherapeutics Network. Next slide. So any questions, as some of the other program officers had mentioned, please reach out. We are here as a resource for all of you. If you have any questions, happy to answer them, or I can connect you with some of the program officers in my office with specific expertise. You can also email if you would like a technical assistance call, which we provide 30 minutes with a program officer. You can email nidasbir@mail.nih.gov, which unfortunately did not make it onto the slide. But thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jess. And NIDA has always been really good at guiding entrepreneurs on those calls. You know, Victor has been very helpful, you know, and you're stepping in his shoes, I presume.
Oh, I'm the new Victor, so.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
Hopefully I'm following in his footsteps.
Okay, sounds good. Michael. Michael, Commander Banyas.
Hi, how are you? My name's Commander Michael Banyas. I appreciate you letting me present today. Next slide, Stephanie. So even though we're one of the smallest institutes, NIMHD's SBIR program goals is we are disease agnostic, so we lead in a lot of various areas as far as health disparities research and market focus throughout the other NIH ICs, such as with digital health, women's health, and then there's a few other areas. We don't fund drugs or therapeutics per se, but devices, services, digital health, and other means that help promote research to understand and improve the health of racial ethnic minority populations, advance scientific understanding of the causes of health disparities, and create and improve scientific methods, metrics, measures, and tools that support health disparities research. Next, please. So just to provide some definition on what are health disparities populations, NIH has several defined health disparities populations, such as Hispanics and Latinos, rural areas, American Indians, Alaska Natives, sexual and gender minorities, socioeconomically disadvantaged individuals, African Americans and Blacks, Native Americans and Pacific Islanders, Asians, and also, as of last September, people experiencing disabilities. And the definition of people living with a health disparity means that they are adversely affected by their environment, they're socially disadvantaged due to being subject to racist or discriminatory acts, and are underserved in healthcare access. Next slide, please. So one of the things that's very important is that in applying to our institute, as well as all institutes, you try to align with with at least their strategic plan. I get a lot of concepts in, and you can tell right off the bat that they just threw in minority populations into the concept, and there was no thought or alignment with the institute. So one of the things that we have up there is a research framework, which you can use to help cross-check how your concept is relating to the biological, behavioral, physical, socioeconomic environment, healthcare system, in the levels of influence. Another important thing is when writing a concept, I know people want to brag about the science of what they've done and the problem, but if what you're doing is on line 20 of your paragraph, you're going to lose the reviewer. My suggestion is right up front, put your intervention and the problem, particularly if it's a health disparities population, because a lot of times the reviewers you'll lose them. Next slide, please. So other research considerations that greatly align with our framework are, how is your concept going to help alleviate the physical, the knowledge, such as health literacy, the infrastructure, such as where clinics are placed, economic, are they able to afford healthcare coverage, or cultural? Like, for example, is this concept or this business concept that's successful in an urban environment, can it be translated to a migrant farm worker environment? Those are all barriers that are important especially when we get concepts of successful practices out in the field, how that they are worth investing in or worth funding, and in helping open up health access to other populations. Next, please. So just some examples of what we have funded. We fund everything from like renal risk ALs in African Americans, to improving Latino literacy in Latinos, to COPD management in rural communities, to tools to help evaluation of patient navigation services in underserved populations for tribal. We fund a whole gamut, and that's just part of being disease agnostic. We're very open-minded, but the concept must focus on health disparities populations. Next slide, please. So just some things coming down the pike. Currently we have a digital health and services RFA with June and December application dates. That will be coming up. This goes to a health disparities expert special emphasis panel versus if you apply to the omnibus, and several institutes on this call have also participated. We also have a women's health research for health disparities populations that should be out this summer as well as additional RFAs and or funding opportunities and NOCs that focus on the research priorities and needs of NIH-defined health disparities populations. If you have any questions, you can contact me. I'm pretty easy to set up an appointment with, particularly when it's non-heavy travel season. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And
hey everybody, I'm Taryn Albrecht with the National Institute for Neurological Disorders and Stroke. And as you'll see on this slide, we've highlighted a couple of the main areas that our institute covers in its mission space, but it does really span hundreds to maybe thousands of indications. So as everybody has already said on this call, we really encourage you to reach out to us ahead of time to make sure that NINDS is the best aligned institute for your project. Next slide, please. So we cover a wide range of things in our funding portfolio: therapeutics, research tools, diagnostics, biomarkers, devices, biologics, and small molecules. And we basically span the entire gamut from drug discovery or device prototyping through early stage clinical trials. Next slide, please. So NINDS, these values shown here are with our budget waiver categories, which for us applies to most things unless you're doing pure software development. So phase 1, we allow up to 700,000, no more than 500,000 in a single year, and in phase 2, up to 3 million, no more than 1.5 million in a single year. Next slide, please. So we participate in the omnibus solicitations for no clinical trials allowed. NINDS has our own specific clinical trial announcements, and we do not accept applications to the omnibus. So if you think you might be an NIH-defined clinical trial, please reach out to us ahead of time. We require extra attachments and information. We also participate in a couple trans NIH initiatives, like the Brain Initiative, the HEAL Initiative, and Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's disease-related dementia. And like many other people who've talked today, we participate in the phase 2B solicitation. Next slide, please. So one of the other things that we have to offer is our cooperative agreement funding opportunities, which are all U44 programs, which are milestone dependent, and we have them in a number of areas for devices, small molecules, biomarkers, and then we also have a clinical trials network. Next slide, please. And one of the other fun things that we are doing is that we have a monthly office hour, second Wednesday of each month. And this slide just shows you a highlight of kind of some of the anticipated topics we're going to cover. And then there's always lots of time for Q&A, and it's a great place if you're kind of new to SBIR funding to get some of those questions answered. Next slide, please. And then we hope you will contact us. So these are all the ways that you can do that. And again, please reach out to us early and often. We want to help you be as successful as possible. That's it for me. Thanks.
Miguel, turn.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Eugene and Stephanie. My name is Miguel Contreras, and I'm a program officer with the Division of Comparative Medicine in the Office of Research Infrastructure Program, that is under the Office of the Director. At the same time, I'm the program manager for the small business. Next one, please. I'm going to provide a brief overview about our program priorities, our outreach, and the outcome of our program. Next one, please. So ORIP small business program goal is to bring the attention of SBIR and STTR application that benefit the research community associated with ORIP mission. And what is our mission? Our mission is to support research infrastructure through the Division of Comparative Medicine and the Division of Contraction and Instrument. At this time, SBIR and STTR project of interest to us include technology basically for the creation or improvement of animal models of human disease and to support the operation and function of the facility where those animals are being kept. Next one, please. So there was a mention of smaller ICs. We are not an IC or institute or center. We are an office, and we are one of the tiny entities. Next, please. Next one. As compared with the budget of NIH, that is around 1.4 billion. Our budget fiscal year 23 was 8 million. But what matters is what we do with that. So below I show that how our portfolio looks like. In fiscal year 23, we received 36 applications, 67 of which were discussed. That means they receive an impact score. And of those 36, 8 were awarded with our success rate of 22%. Of those 8, 4 were coming from a small business, woman-owned small business and socio-economically disadvantaged small business. Next one. So which one are our priority? We would like to bring attention on projects from woman-owned and socio-economically and economically disadvantaged small business, as well as small business that are located in idea states. We look for technology that can be aligned to ORIP supported resources that I'm going to mention in a minute. And those projects need to be non-categorical. That means not organ or disease specific, need to be preclinical and NIH-wide in nature. Next one. Next one. So the resources that ORIP support, as you can see in the front page of our strategic plan, encompass from the tiny Drosophila to all the way up to the non-human primate, because as you are aware, there is no a perfect model. So next one. I invite you to visit our website where you can look the flavor of different resources that we support. Next one, please. With regard to current funding initiative, we participate in the omnibus solicitation, that is the NIH-wide NOFO. As well, we participate in the Innovation Corps, an initiative supplement to promote diversity in research and small business. We also participate in NANDS, the HEAL initiative, and we have our own set of initiatives that relate to tools and devices for animal research facilities and to support care and animal model. Next one. Next one. With regard to outreach, I invite you to visit the different links that are showcased here. We also participate or use social media to promote and advertise our activity. If you visit the link, next one, please. What you can find there is, sorry about the mistake there. In the first picture on the left, make reference to our website where you can find 2 videos that they show, short videos that they show a overview of the small business program, and the second about how you can apply for those small business grant. You will also find in those website our fact sheet and additional material for applicants. And finally, you can find highlights of small business success stories. Next one, please. As an example of supported project, as I mentioned before, most of the application need to align to our resources. And here there are 4 examples of those resources. We have the C. elegans Genetic Center in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, sorry. And we have technology associated or aligned to the zebrafish resource in Oregon, as well as technology for Drosophila in Indiana. And finally, example of the technology associated with our Viper resource in Texas. Next. I invite you to visit the reporter where you can query us and you can find out additional technology that we support. Next one. So this is a brief outcome of our technology and the technology that we support. And during 2021 and 2023, ORIP provide more than 36 million awarded to the small business community, and that represent 23 funded projects encompassing SBIR and STTR. Of those projects, 9 came from woman-owned and socially and economically disadvantaged small business. 2 were from idea states. Those grants supported more than 102 full-time employees, provided more than 18 patents, and also supported more than 24 scientific publications. With regard to what we have right now in the pipeline, we have technology for diagnostic, for instrument, and for therapeutics. A success story, we can highlight that 2 of the companies that we successfully supported were acquired. We also established collaboration between small business and our resources, and also we share collaboration and we promote resources with important partners at NIH like NIAMS, Environmental Health Science, NIGMS, Mental Health, and NCAT. Next one. Thank you for your attention. And again, I'm providing, and I put in the chat, the website from ORIP, my email address, and the website for NIH. Thank you again.
Thank you, Miguel. And we are amazingly on time to a second. Staff, fantastic job. Before we go into some of the questions that people have posted, I think there is a little bit of a theme here that I would like to hear addressed by maybe Adam, maybe someone else. There are multiple programs that exist across NIH Institutes that help entrepreneurs to become better at getting funded for SBIR. AAP is one of the programs. But there are others. S3I is another one at a different stage. Can you talk a little bit about how people can participate, apply for those programs, participate in them, and increase their chances of getting funded? It's a very competitive process, and people are often frustrated by the peer review process. I've been on both sides of that as a reviewer and as an applicant that was both funded and not funded. So if you could talk a little bit about how NIH helps applicants become better applicants.
Absolutely. I'll start, and happy to let any of my colleagues speak. But we are really committed to providing resources to help make sure people are aware of our programs and also can access them. You've certainly heard about our application assistance programs. If you looked very closely at slides, you looked at a handful of new programs the seed office has been rolling out, including the capstone program, which is providing opportunities for specific groups of entrepreneurs to get involved in a customer discovery program pre-application, as well as the upcoming entrepreneur bootcamp program, which you can, I think we've got more information about on our website. And then many of our institutes and centers have their own excellent resources, which is why it's always a really good idea to reach out to a program officer in advance to really discuss your interests, but also your background and capabilities to help make sure that you are taking care of the all the excellent resources that are specifically available to you and somebody in your particular situation. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in and discuss anything specific.
So can you talk a little bit about maybe what NCI is doing? Is you have one of our larger programs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're the drivers behind the AAP as well as the I-Core. And so, those are great programs. And what I'd like to also talk about today is, I think at the overall NIH, we've been thinking about pipeline building quite a bit, and NIH Seed has done tremendous amount of work with that. So, there's been a lot of programs such as the Entrepreneurial Bootcamp program that has come out. But some of the larger institutes have also thought about programs that will enable basically entrepreneurial development. And so there's one program that NCI has been working on, and so I'll just put that in the chat for you. The NIA has been working on a suite of programs called READY. And then, there's also the Small Business Transition Grant that's available for early career scientists that are thinking about getting entrepreneurial training while being PIs at startups. So I think, there's a wide array of programs that are available.
Fantastic. That's very helpful. There is a question from Audrey. And while I'm reading that question, Brenda, you said that you have a quick question. Please type it in the chat while we're getting answered Audrey's question. Is there any particular NIH team that will enable collaboration with another federal agency? This is a fantastic question. I've been involved in a lot of efforts where there was a good opportunity for partnership between NSF and NIH or NIH and USDA. Is there anybody that can help build those bridges? That would be very helpful. I don't know who is willing to take an answer in that, Adam or someone else.
I think our office is always happy to make those introductions and facilitate those connections where we can. One thing I will note is that you are very welcome if you have say a phase 1 award at another participating agency to submit your phase 2 application to NIH, and in some cases vice versa. So we're always I don't know that we've got a specific apparatus in place, but we're always happy to have that discussion and see how we can help out.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And also, there is one other thing. People often are not aware that you can cross agency between phase 1 and phase 2. You can get phase 1 at NSF and phase 2 at NIH. You can have phase 1 at SBIR and phase 2 at STTR. So there are a lot of those things that people are not aware of.
Yeah, and particularly if you're the NSF does not generally support clinical trials, so that's something we commonly see is people will do a phase 1 at NSF and then come over to NIH to expand their work into clinical evaluation.
Good deal.
So I have one more thing to add to that, Eugene, if it's okay.
Sure.
In addition to being able to, Adam and Eugene are correct, you can switch agencies between the phase 1 and phase 2, and I've seen that a lot, specifically NSF to NIH grants. Additionally, at the NHLBI, and I've seen this at other institutes and centers as well, in many cases, companies will pursue funding from multiple agencies for either the same product, just performing different product development and testing activities, or by supporting different products in their pipeline. So it's very common for us at the NHLBI, for example, we're very interested in transfusion medicine. So a lot of our transfusion medicine companies are supported by the Department of Defense. So we definitely encourage companies to pursue all sorts of non-dilutive funding. Don't just limit to yourself to the NIH, although we are pretty great.
Fantastic. That is great. Brenda's question actually is something that I hear quite often. Would be great to get an official answer. When an applicant is speaking with a program officer, do they need to have an NDA, or that conversation is protected and privileged?
Well, we strongly recommend that you don't disclose any confidential information in your discussion with your program officer. You should be able to have that scientific conversation without disclosing that particular information. But anything you submit formally through the application process, all of that information is privileged and protected, both for the federal staff as well as all of the reviewers.
Yeah. There was a question from Ken about equity take by SBIR, STTR, and this is one of their great advantages of those programs, that they're non-dilutive. There is no equity taken, and I presume that all other programs that we heard today about, like Blueprint and Catalyze, they do not have any equity component on it, right?
That is correct, Eugene. None of these programs take equity. They're all non-dilutive, so that is a major advantage to having your company be supported by federal grant funding.
Yeah, be careful though that some of the state match programs at least made an attempts in the past to include some kind of
like CZI, BioHub.
Yeah.
And he said that they're still reviewing our proposal. We had to put in a proposal for 15 million over 3 years.
Who is asking this question? I'm not sure what happened. Please put your question in the chat, so it will go in the order. That would be really appreciated. I started commenting on things that there are state matches to SBIR, to the federal program, and some of those states require or try to require certain things that would be considered to be kind of equity or equity-like. Be careful with those. Make sure that you fully understand what you're involved in. But I don't think there is any federal program that requires any equity, correct? Federal government?
Yeah, certainly not SBIR.
Yeah, fantastic.
But there's nothing wrong with the state matching funds that might take equity. It's just, I think Eugene's just underscoring to know that that's happening and understand the terms of that. When people take equity, they're in it moving forward with you. So there's nothing wrong with some of the programs and stuff that do take equity.
Yeah, you just need to understand what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There is a question about whether NSF has the same thing in terms of taking. I presume it was related to either the equity taking. They're not taking any equity either, or if it was a question about NSF for a different reason, then maybe I misread it. There's a question from Julio: is Blueprint program open to U.S. startups owned by European company?
Blueprint EdTech is open to non-US companies.
Blueprint is what?
It is open. It's open.
It is open to non-US companies.
Correct.
Okay. So that is a significant difference from SBIR.
Yes.
Okay, good to know. What about Catalyze, Steph? Do you know?
So Catalyze is only open to US based companies, but if you are a non-US based company, you can collaborate with a US based academic institution or US based company. And Catalyze are more flexible to having foreign components, which small business grants are very strict about that. I also wanted to offer just a minor caveat to Blueprint. Some of the Blueprint funding opportunities are U44 cooperative agreements, which means they are SBIR cooperative agreements. So they are going to be very strict about company eligibility, but some of the UG3, UH3 non-SBIR Blueprint funding opportunities are going to be more flexible.
That's an important caveat. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And Blueprint is done across multiple institutes, right? Or is it?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. So this is really important thing. And I'm so glad that we have so many institutes presented today. Thank you to Stephanie and Adam for bringing all those institutes. We have 13 different presenters from NIH today, and this is very important to understand that each institute does it a little bit differently, has slightly different excuse me, priorities and goals. And it would be very, very important to have a conversation in advance of your submission of the proposal. The earlier in the writing stage, the better, with the program officers. The names of the people and their contacts will be available to you in the deck that you will receive. It will be, you will also get a link to the recording of today's presentations. I frankly, when I looked at their deck, I think it's gold. It's absolutely gold. There's so much information. We didn't have time to go and touch every single little item on it, but there are links, there are connections, there is additional information about various solicitations. I very much encourage you and your colleagues spread the word about this event, and also that we will have more of webinars like that in the future. I think that that would be very, very valuable for people to participate in. There is a question from Ken Dicken. How does the application with several months process protect those secrets? Do these programs discuss apply to later stages for the firm's development after proof of concept, seed round into Series A, B, etc.? Anybody wants to touch on that? Adam, Suraj, because this is cancer.
I actually, frankly, don't understand the question. Are you thinking about the IP and trade secrets? I think, you traditionally would like to have some sort of IP at the time of application. Even though we fund early stage research, you definitely want to have your innovation protected at the time of application. But all of the IP is yours to keep for any of the NIH SBIR funded mechanisms. I hope that answers everything.
Yeah, in case they're alluding to the interaction, so submitting an application to the NIH and the fact that that application may contain proprietary information, there's a data rights protection, and that extends to all small business SBIR STTR applications that the federal government cannot disclose. Right, so the federal government is bound by that data rights agreement, and that's brokered through the Small Business Administration. So I'll put a link in the chat. You need to, so if there's a page that contains information that you deem proprietary, you need to mark, there's a legend that you need to mark that specific page or pages with, and I can put the link in the chat, but it's called the data rights protection.
Thanks for mentioning that, Toyin. The other thing I wanted to mention is that peer reviewers for both the small business study sections and the regular study sections, they are held to very strong expectations of confidentiality. They're required to sign a confidentiality agreement, and there are serious consequences for reviewers that do not hold that confidentiality agreement. So this is a common concern of a lot of early stage entrepreneurs. They want to make sure their secrets are well kept, but just understand that at the NIH, we take them very seriously. And when your application is going through peer review, this is not going to constitute a public disclosure, but absolutely indicate in your application if there is proprietary information, just to be better safe than sorry.
Excellent. And thank you, Toyin, for putting the link on the data rights. I really appreciate that. We got questions, actually, a couple, if we're going to be sharing the chat. We're not sharing the chat, but you can save the chat. You can click the three dots at the top of the chat to save it. So if you would like to do that, that would be great. Adam, you did some clarification on their pre-existing IP. You want to say it out loud?
Yeah, just noting that you retain any IP that you bring into the project. That remains yours. The government gets no rights to that. The government gets limited rights to any data that you generate in the project, but we cannot disclose it for 20 years. And we will generally not come after you after 20 years to disclose it at that point.
Thank you. And thank you for people who commenting on their quality of the presentations today. I was amazed. That was truly one of the best webinars on the topic of non-dilutive programs that I've seen so far. It is amazing what you guys have presented, how concisely and in depth at the same time. Really appreciate that. And we have someone who is talking about creating a community of other applicants. That might be interesting thing. I encourage you to create one. Go to LinkedIn. I think that would be fantastic to scare up a few people who might be interested in all of this. Other people were asking how to get in touch with the program officers. People sometimes are afraid to reach out to you guys, and I keep telling them that you're looking forward to those conversations. That's one of the most important parts of what you do, and NIH is amazing from that perspective compared to other agencies in availability of their program officers. It is just simply incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. We are out of time for today.
May I say a couple of words? Thank you very much for presentations. It was very interesting and very helpful. But the people like me, I need more close relationship. I'll try to reach Adam Sorkin and Siraj Regmi for help, because what I developed is a long time is medical diagnostic field is waiting for. It's precancerous, early cancerous, any type of in vivo.
Yeah, Igor, Igor, I appreciate your comments, but my recommendation to have that specific conversation directly in one-on-one call, not in front of the whole group. I'm sure that both Siraj and Adam will be very much interested in talking with you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again. You will receive their links to their deck and to their recording of that event in a few days, as soon as we process and post it. And like I said, watch for more webinars of this kind. We are not done yet. This is just the beginning. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of the day and the week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Where's Ken?